We're asking the media to help us today in outreach to the 21 affected Louisiana parishes that have declared emergency status and could potentially be affected by the Mississippi River and backwater flooding that's on its way, assuming that the Marganza spillway is opened, and that is almost a certainty as we speak. Statistics have long shown that we only have 29% of the property statewide in Louisiana insured for flood. That spiked up a little bit, just over 30% in the year or two after Hurricane Katrina, but has unfortunately retreated back to that 29% level as we speak. In the southeast and southwest corners of our state, the victims of Rita and Katrina in 2005, 40% of those property owners had flood insurance in place. And that was good by comparison to our neighbors next door in Mississippi, where the victims of Hurricane Katrina, only 20% of those properties had flood insurance in place. As you know, it typically takes 30 days before a flood insurance policy goes into effect, but we'll talk some more about that in a few minutes. Separate flood coverage has to be purchased to cover buildings and contents, as the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, under FEMA, provides $250,000 of coverage for your home and $100,000 for its contents. If you need more coverage than that, as many folks do, and many did not have even the knowledge that such additional coverage, called excess flood coverage, it can be accessed in the private sector for policy coverage beyond those $250,000 and $100,000 limits. It's also important for consumers to know that flood insurance does not cover loss of use or additional living expense, as if individuals are forced to evacuate or relocate outside of the flooded area. Flood insurance can and should be purchased right now. It is available regardless of the fact that a spillway is being opened or a flood is on its way. It can and should be purchased as we speak. I make an annual statewide storm awareness tour this time of the year leading into hurricane season beginning June 1st. Visit all the metropolitan areas of the state, accessing, with great cooperation from the media, the opportunity to get folks' attention as we hear a lot about the approaching hurricane season, and make the point that every property in our state should be insured for flood. There is no such thing as a unfloodable property anywhere in Louisiana. A year ago, the Grand Ole Opry flooded in Nashville, Tennessee, and only 10% of those properties in that surrounding area had flood insurance in place. In fact, the NFIP will tell you that 25% of the claims they pay nationwide are paid for damage from flood in low-risk areas. In other words, areas that were thought to be impervious to flood. Our friends on the Gulf Coast in Mississippi were told at loan closings, you're 15 feet above sea level, you don't have to have flood insurance. And all they were left with was a slab after Katrina came roaring through that community. And still today, many slabs are still obvious in the aftermath. Any questions about crop insurance should be directed to the Louisiana Department of Agriculture. Their number for consumer assistance is 225-925-3770. Now let me talk for a few minutes about the loophole or exception to the 30-day wait period. With the imminent threat of flooding in the Mississippi River system and tributaries, many people have been seeking flood insurance coverage. And normally, as I said before, there's a 30-day wait period before an NFIP policy goes into effect. And I want to add that an NFIP policy is identical in Salt Lake City or Morgan City. It's the same insurance policy throughout America. However, there are waivers to that 30-day wait period available if the policy is initially purchased in connection with the making, increasing, extending, or renewal of a loan, in which case coverage shall be effective at the time of loan closing, provided that the policy is applied for at or before that loan closing. This waiver is for new loan closings and applies, quote, regardless of flood zone, close quote. If there is a loan closing and the application is applied for and paid for at or before the closing, there is no 30-day wait regardless of zone. The rules do not say that the lender has to require the policy, only that there is a loan closing. Very important provision in the National Flood Insurance Program that consumers should be aware of. Let me run through a couple of do's for folks who are victims of a flood. The first thing that one should do when their property is flooded and they have flood insurance available is contact their insurance agent or insurance company right away and have your policy number available when you do that. Give your phone number and address where you can be reached day or night to that agent or company. When your insurance company adjuster contacts you, ask for his or her identification. Do not permit an adjuster to inspect your property without that proper identification. An ID is available to all adjusters. Remember that unscrupulous repairmen often try to take advantage of people who have suffered storm losses. The stories post-Rita and Katrina are legion. It's sad to say. Protect your property from further damage. All insurance requires property owners who have suffered a loss to minimize their damage. That's why we see folks putting blue roofs, blue tarps on top of property in the aftermath of hurricane events. It is your obligation to do that as a policyholder for any form of insurance. Take photos of your damaged property and make whatever reasonable temporary repairs are needed, especially cover broken windows and holes in roofs or walls. Keep a record of those repairs for possible reimbursement, I should say probable reimbursement for your insurance company. Expenses incurred in minimizing your loss are reimbursable just as the repair to your damage are reimbursable. Remember, flooding is generally not covered under a homeowner's policy. There are very rare exceptions, but that's the rule. Flood insurance is a separate policy. The NFIP has an arrangement with private insurance companies to sell and service flood insurance policies, but the NFIP has its limits. You can only get, as I mentioned before, $250,000 for your home and $100,000 for its contents in coverage, but you can get excess coverage through your agent or an insurance company. If you do not have flood insurance, there are other possibilities for reimbursement. Check other policies that you may have for all opportunities for recovery. For example, loss of food by spoilage due to electrical outages or damage from power surges related to storms may be covered by your homeowner's policy. Damage to your motor vehicle may be covered under comprehensive coverage on your auto policy. And some falling trees, which can happen in a flood as well, may be covered under homeowners' policies as well. Do not pay money, make any deposits for repairs, or sign any contracts for repairs until you have been instructed to do so by your adjuster and you have called the Better Business Bureau in your area to check out the people who are to do the repair work for you. Those tips are contained on our website and available at www.ldi.state.la.us. For consumer assistance, we are staffed and ready to go to receive inquiries from any concerned property owner in the state through our 800 number of 1-800-259-5300. Having said those things, I'd be happy to answer any questions. We are trying to get out to the public the information that is relevant to them as we approach the flooding that is soon to hit our state, coming down the Mississippi and its tributaries through the Marganza Spillway and other areas that will see backwater flooding as well. And the message is you can buy flood insurance. It is available and can be purchased even today and going forward. Typically, it doesn't cover an event for 30 days, but there are exceptions to that prohibition on the first 30 days, and they revolve around flood insurance purchased in connection with making a loan, increasing a loan, or refinancing a loan.
How many people in Louisiana have flood insurance right now?
The penetration for our state is good by comparison to others in that 29% of the property in our state is covered. That's sad because we have learned through bitter experience in my area of Metairie, every 5 years, it seems, we have a 100-year rainstorm that puts water in people's homes. And we cannot forget the $15 billion event that we experienced 5 years ago from Rita and Katrina that cost the National Flood Insurance Program $15 billion for losses in our state alone. But after that event in 2005, coverage went up over 30%, but has retreated back down to the 29% level that it was in 2005. I tell folks every property in Louisiana should be insured for flood. If it's in a low-risk area, a homeowner can buy a policy for as little as $10 a month. No question, the best insurance buy that a property owner in Louisiana can make. It is subsidized by the federal government. We are one of the dozen or so consuming states, not net paying states, that even our friends in Florida pay more into the program than they get back. We in Louisiana are the #1 beneficiary of the National Flood Insurance Program.
Is there a question whether people who will be affected once the spillway is open and their property is flooded, are they eligible?
They certainly are. There are many who are questioning whether a, quote, man-caused flood as opening of a spillway would be done by purposeful acts of man. Is that covered? And the answer is absolutely yes. Makes no difference if a flood event is caused by rain or by the opening of a spillway or the overtopping of a levee. It is covered if one has flood insurance in place.
Yeah.
They can contact us through our 800 number, 1-800-259-5300, or they can go to our website, www.ldi.la.gov,